Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the amazing FBA and 10K Collective podcast live streams. Today we've got Petru Iacob from Audience. We're going to be talking Facebook ads. So Petru, welcome to the live. First of all, thanks for coming on.
Hello.
So if you are listening live or watching on the replay, as I know many of you do ask any questions you got for Petru on Facebook ads. So we're going to specifically talk about Facebook ads with sort of slightly two hats on. It's all e-commerce, of course. The first one is for Amazon only businesses, and the second one for e-commerce businesses that sell on Amazon and have a direct-to-consumer site. And the interplay between those two is going to be one of the things we discuss. So Facebook ads, much discussed, often done, in my experience, extremely badly. So we really need somebody to help guide us through this. So Petru, if you're ready, are you good to go to record the podcast as a live podcast?
Okay.
Excellent. Here we go then. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the 10K Collective podcast, a place to be for 6, 7, and 8-figure Amazon sellers, or should I say e-commerce sellers who are mainly focused on Amazon. So today we are talking to Petru Iacob of Audiencer. He's the founder of Audiencer, which helps Facebook advertisers find cold audiences, and particularly important for a lot of e-commerce business owners. But the tricky thing, of course, is integrating that into an Amazon-focused business, which is a whole different ball game. So that's why we've got Petru on the show. So first of all, warm welcome. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And out of interest, where are you coming to us from in the world today?
Romania, which is next to Ukraine.
Yes, of course. Yes, we're all fairly aware of the geography there. Yes, so I'll see you in London in a few months' time if you want someone to come. So joking apart, of course, we got good old Facebook ads, much talked about, obsessed about by digital marketers since they created it, I think, right? But a lot of Amazon business owners I know have played with them, dabbled with them, found them in most cases unsuccessful. I know a few people who've nailed down using them for launches. So today we're going to talk particularly about how to use them to boost a launch. So the first question is, why should we even use Facebook? Obviously, Amazon ads are on the Amazon platform. We've got shoppers there. We've got the organic SEO ranking on Amazon. Why do we even need to include Facebook ads in our arsenal these days?
Yeah, so it's different stories. Like with Amazon, if you're not using ads and you only rely on the organic side of it and you optimize your listings and all that, you kind of rely on people deciding to go shopping and go for your products and compare your products with other people's. Whereas with the kind of advertising Facebook offers you access the broad masses. Basically, you disrupt their lives and you show your products in front of them while they're browsing. So it's a different story. It's a different everything, different messaging, but it can be a great way to scale your business.
Okay, so would you say then the best use case for it is somebody who's really wanting to aggressively grow their audience and their sales, or is it still something that somebody who's slightly more modest in ambitions could still use?
It's for both. It's for everybody. Basically, you with Facebook, you create another channel, another acquisition channel for your business. It's kind of separated from whatever you're doing with Amazon, and it's a good way to acquire a lot of new customers, because Facebook right now has like over 2 billion people active on the platform, and they know a lot about all of those people, and they have crazy targeting options and super smart algorithms that go after whoever you need, whenever you need. So they kind of show your ads like at the right time for the right people.
Okay. And I presume that also another argument in favor of Facebook would be a risk diversification. So if you're
Correct.
on Amazon, all of your traffic comes from Amazon and your sales, and if you're on FBA, all your fulfillment.
Yep.
So is that one of the reasons why your clients end up using Facebook?
Yeah, obviously, and this is valid for Facebook as well, because if you have a store on Shopify and you only use Facebook to drive traffic to your website, using Amazon is a good way to diversify your risk, and using Google to acquire new customers. because if you have only a single channel, this happens basically on all of the platforms. Like you can have accounts shut down on Amazon, on Facebook, on Google, on Twitter, like everywhere. So whatever you have going, you kind of want to diversify that risk of getting shut down.
Great. So diversification, potentially bigger market, or at least increasing your market.
Yep.
And it's just another opportunity, I suppose, if you do it the right way. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that one of the problems with Amazon is obviously that Amazon doesn't really let you install pixels. So attribution of sales or tracking, you're
Mm-hmm.
spending a lot of money very easily on any pay-per-click platform, Facebook included, in my experience, very
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
And of course, then we've got to see if we're getting a return on investment. So how do you go about solving that whole problem of attribution?
Yeah, so Facebook has a thing called conversion tracking and optimization. Basically, they need you to report back to Facebook's platform and algorithms whoever buys from you, so they know which click from their platform has generated traction for you. So basically, if they show your ads to a given audience, and they get positive response, as in you make, let's say, 10 sales out of 1,000 impressions, they know that audience is a good audience for you, for your products, and they keep showing it on the same type of audience, showing your ads. Whereas if you do not report back your sales, they're going to display your ads to a different audience and then move to another audience. And basically, if they do this, and you're not making any sales, even though you're making any sales but not reporting those sales, they're going to consider your ads are pretty bad, pretty low in performance, and kick you out of those good audiences. And this is unfortunately with Amazon, this is something you have to find a way around, because with Amazon, you don't have access to install pixels and tracking via the conversions API, and also you don't get to have information on the buyers themselves. So you need to find a way around this, and the best way is to actually have a totally separated, different platform like Shopify, like any page that will allow you to report back to Facebook whatever sales you're making. And Shopify, I said Shopify because Shopify is the best out there in terms of stores, of e-com stores.
Okay, so it is understandable that you'd need an extra page or another place. Why shop? I mean, let me just clarify and tease this apart, because I think there's, even amongst the very savvy sellers in the mastermind that I run, there's a bit of confusion here. So Shopify is a fully functional direct-to-consumer site, i.e. people can buy there. There's a shopping cart, there's a facilities for all the stuff that Amazon does, like you've added stuff to the cart, but why didn't you buy, and all that stuff, right?
Yep.
But what you're talking about is it about making a sale on the direct-to-consumer site, or is it about capturing a lead, or is it literally about they click on that page and they get immediately redirected to Amazon? What's the sort of pathway we're talking here?
You can go both ways, but the best way in terms of conversions would be to have a separated site, because if you only consider a conversion, that click that takes you to Amazon, that does not guarantee a purchase. So basically, if you want to optimize for those clicks, you can use any page, and whenever they click on the add to cart button, to direct them to Amazon, but then you'll be optimizing on the add to carts and not on the purchases themselves.
Okay, so just talk me through that, the concrete example.
A concrete example. So let's say you're selling shoes, and you have some ads, and you have an intermediary page, and people you set up your ads on Facebook, and people click on those, land on your page, and from that page, like if you store it on, let's say, ClickFunnels or something like that, that allows you to create that page. They click on the page, on the button on the page, then an event is fired and lets Facebook know that click happened, and then that customer goes to Amazon, and either they buy or they don't buy, that event already fired. So basically, Facebook won't know if that purchase happened.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
So that's one path. So it's
Yep.
Facebook ad to interstitial page or whatever you want to call it, landing
Hmm.
page. They click on the buy button, they go to Amazon, and then it's in a black box. We don't know. So
Yep.
you can. And so how do you deal with attribution? Let's say I've spent, I don't know what it would be. A typical cost would be, say, let's say it's in the US, $3 a click on Facebook.
Hmm.
Out of 10 clicks, because they're very targeted, what would be a typical conversion rate to add to cart in that sort of scenario, or does it just vary hugely?
It depends. It very much depends on the industry. I've seen ads where I've had a couple of clicks in a row that converted like at 100% conversion rate,
Yeah.
and I've seen traffic that did nothing. So a typical conversion rate, it pretty much depends on the traffic you're getting on industry, but it can be anywhere from the conversion rate. Sorry, it can be anywhere from I don't know, 1% to even 10%.
All right, so let's say 1%. So I spent a
Yeah.
dollar. Let's be kind and say I spent a dollar a click. It's 1%. So I spent $100 to get that add to cart. How do I deal with, whether I'm getting return on my ad dollars, or at least if it's not a return because there's a launch, so it's a cost center, how much it's costing me to launch my
Yeah.
products? How do I get my head around the numbers for that?
Yeah, you'll have to calculate the return on investment based on whatever sales you're making on Amazon.
Yeah, but how do
And
I know what sales are making on Amazon based on Facebook ads? You just told me that we don't know that. We know the add to
exactly,
cart. So how do
exactly.
you figure that out? What average conversion rate? So you say you had 10 add to, let's say 10% conversion. So I spent whatever $300 on ads. I've had a 10% conversion rate to add to carts.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then what do? Take a typical add to cart to sales relationship on Amazon for that product, or how do you figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of, if you don't have an exact way to track, you kind of have to assume stuff. So maybe one way would be to have a separate listing where you drive traffic with Facebook ads only. But if you have a listing on Amazon, it will still be on Amazon. So it's going to be hard to track whatever you don't control.
Yeah, that
even
makes sense
even
to me.
if you
So
control and it's your
yeah,
real estate, you still have problems with the cookies and all of that. So
of course, yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I understood iOS updates, all the rest. But I mean, so how do we actually get some kind of concrete handle on? I mean, because I'm just imagining the conversations with one of my hard-boiled
Hmm.
mastermind members making several £1 million a year in revenue, but they're like, I want to get a return on. Why should I do this ad stuff off Amazon? And how are they going to get some kind of handle on whether they should do more of it or not, and whether it's working or not?
uh,
What's the simple way of dealing with that with
yeah,
theirs?
so when running these kinds of numbers, I assume the better way would be to have a fully integrated system and handling themselves the fulfillment. Like instead of using Amazon FBA, maybe a better idea would be to just go the Shopify way. I mean, if
Okay,
you
so
if
are
you
you?
want to properly track your sales and report those to how much you're spending on Facebook, then you have to kind of have to separate whatever you're doing on Amazon and whatever you're doing on Facebook. Because if you mix them and spend some money on Amazon ads, some money on Facebook ads, some money on Google ads, and you're also getting traffic from purchases from organically from Amazon, then it's going to be insanely hard to separate those and see whatever channel is winning and whatever channel is losing.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Thank you for being honest about that, because this is the constant cry of people in any business anywhere. Actually, it's like I put money in and money comes out. Why is the
Correct.
cause and effect relationship between them, or is
Hmm.
it just correlations with just coincidence or luck, or And I guess what you're being honest about, the fact you can track some of it. I think being able to track add to carts give you a fairly that's certainly a big step up on most people's metrics. So I mean, it's a big
Yeah,
improvement.
yeah. If you know your conversions and your numbers in general, tracking one and assuming the other may be a good idea, but in my experience, and I know this tracking and attribution thing is huge right now, and
Mm.
it's a big problem to solve. I know it's just assuming, so it's not it's not real data.
Sure, but at least it's assuming it's some assumptions, but some actual data, as opposed to 100% assumptions. Or I spent X amount
Yeah.
on Facebook ads, and Amazon ads, and my
Yeah,
sales were X, so I assumed that the Facebook ads worked,
correct.
which is the even worse, which is what I see
Yeah,
a lot of the time.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing, the other side of it is like if you have some products on Amazon and you're driving traffic from Amazon organically, and with Facebook ads, and you're profitable, you need to know that you can't just scale to an infinite to an infinity of customers, because the more you try scaling, the more the numbers go all over the place. Like you can have ROAS dropping a lot when you scale. You can have all sorts of problems. So uh, I think it's better to just diversify user acquisition. Like instead of just finding um, a channel that's profitable and turning off the others to keep the most profit, and then hit some problems. I think it's better to just localize those and keep those channels that are profitable if you can identify them.
Yeah, which is the whole point. Okay, so let's so we've sort of knocked around a lot about the attribution thing. So let's zoom back out. So we're talking about Facebook driven ads, sorry, Facebook ad driven traffic in order to contribute to an Amazon launch, right? So the objective of which I guess is normally getting reviews and or getting ranking for main keywords. I guess that's the primary aim, right? So what are the two or three ways that we could do that in practice? How does that break down into sort of sub launch types, if any?
So like when preparing a launch.
Yeah. So, yeah. What are we meaning by launch? I guess I'm for me, I'm assuming that you're starting a product from scratch on Amazon. Is that how
Mhm.
you would use Facebook ads for an Amazon focused launch?
Yeah, I mean, there are like two types of launches, like where one is where you just go and upload your images and just publish everything in your live. And then there's the other type of launch when you're launching a product, and this is widely used in, especially in the digital place, where the marketers build a lot of buzz before going live with the product. And with Facebook, you can have your product. You can have a landing page somewhere outside of Amazon, and on that landing page, you can have a sign up form where people can give your email, and let's say your strategy is to notify them when the product goes live. So you can run ads to that page and build buzz around the brand, around the product. Like let's say you're launching some new pair of running shoes that are revolutionizing the running industry. And you this way you can build the list, and whenever you go live, you can email that entire list to drive sales and reviews and all that.
Okay, great. And that's a lovely theory, and we all know the theory, I guess, or at least the money's in the list is a lovely idea. How well does that work in practice? How well have you got some examples of some numbers or clients who've had that actually work for them?
I didn't have clients with this strategy. I just know it's widely used. Like there are many people who use this kind of pre-launch style.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very common in the information marketing space.
Yeah, especially.
Is it something you've seen people use in the e-commerce space? As obviously, if you're selling a $2,000 or I don't know $1,500 reduced to $997 in a webinar, it's like the iron law of pricing in
Hmm.
these things, isn't it? But if you're selling a widget for $50, obviously
Hmm.
the economics are quite different. Do you see people use it in that kind of space?
It's hard to tell. It's something you can try. But speaking of pre-launches, this strategy is widely used on Kickstarter kind of websites. Like
Okay.
you have that idea of yours, and you have people backing you and paying for something and getting it later. So it's kind of in the same area.
Okay. Interesting. So I
Yeah.
know. So assuming that we're going to go ahead and do something like this, I know you've got a little framework for how you think about the advertising. So having sort of interrogated whether we can attribute it to some degree, will it work purely for on Amazon launches to some degree? Where do we go next? Assuming that we're going to go ahead and decide to use Facebook ads,
Okay.
what's the next step?
Yeah, so the next step is to actually set up the ads, but before doing that, you kind of have to do a bit of research, And I have a little framework for this. It's called the CAT framework, which stands for C stands for creative and copy. A stands for audiences, and T obviously stands for testing. So with the copy and the creatives, you have to figure out the problems in your niche. Like for example, you want to go to where people congregate in your niche. Like it can be on Facebook groups, it can be on YouTube, where people comment below videos, and you'll see in some cases there are lots of comments around problems. Like for example, in the Facebook ads industry, a big problem is having the account shut down, or the attribution thing is a big problem. And whenever you see someone mentioning an account being shut down, you see a lot of comments, and from there you can see what the problem is, what the solutions are usually, and this way you can uncover lots of angles to use in your copy. Like for example, if you're launching that pair of shoes and you go to groups on Facebook where people talk a lot about running, you can figure out what the problems are and how they tie into your own shoes. Because I'm assuming when you design those shoes, you spoke with people in the running industry. Going from there, you can start with lots of angles and crafting that copy to integrate it with the actual feature of your products, of your shoes.
Nice, I like it, and that's a nice integration between thinking about your product and how to sell it, and also
Yep.
the audience, not just in general, but on a specific platform that you're then going to be advertising to. So that's like smart. I like it. Great.
Yep.
And what's the best practical sort of starting point? What would you do? Join Facebook groups
Yeah,
around?
definitely.
So if I'm selling running shoes, for example, so I went for a run earlier and I spent £150, whatever that is, and
Yep.
160, 70 euros on a pair of running shoes a while ago, which for me is quite a lot, and certainly
Yep.
more expensive than average trainers. So obviously I was sold on this idea. So what would I do as an advertiser? I'd go on Facebook groups for runners and then look for people talking about my shoes hurt my feet or don't support me, or my knees hurt after my last marathon.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And not only Facebook. I mean, I'm from the digital space, and in here, lots of people are on Facebook, but they can be on Reddit, they can be on YouTube, they can be on Twitter. I mean, there's lots of platforms. Even on TikTok, you can get to see lots of comments. So you need to figure out where people congregate in that niche you're in, and then start looking after trends, after slang. Because if you're using the kind of copy, like not general words, but rather slang people use when running, for example, you're going to get a lot more attention with your ads, with the copy of those ads.
Yeah, it's true, and I guess also you got to think about. I'm just thinking about myself as a customer avatar for a second. So I bought these expensive trainers and I have hardly used them because I have this aspiration to be this fit guy who's losing his middle-aged, belly. And the truth is that I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that it's working about the aspirations that people have and then the realities of their lives and all those stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess really brings us to the targeting. So you talked about the generalization of, the general way of looking at the customer avatar, what they care about, the problems they have, linking that with your product. That's like marketing 101. Most people don't bother, by the way, so it's still good advice. But specifically, once you've done that, how do we translate that into Facebook ad targeting and audience selection?
Yes, the same philosophy goes into choosing your targeting. Facebook has this thing called interest. So basically, what they do is they track your behavior on their platform and on the internet where they can. And whenever you engage on some topic, let's say you click like or comment something on an image that's related to running, you are going to have an interest attributed to you. Basically, an interest is like a keyword or a topic that's assigned to you. So whenever, let's say, if I'm launching a new pair of shoes, I can go and target keywords related to running. Like it can be, I don't know, running. Running is a bit too broad. And
let's say half marathon or something, because that's the ones that I run, because I'm too wimpy to run a whole marathon, or
exactly.
I just fall apart. So would that be a narrow enough niche? Is that too specific? Is that too broad?
I don't think it's broad, because when you're looking for targeting, you kind of want to look for slang, for keyword in the industry, because if you're targeting, for example, running, you can get any type of people, even people who never run, like, or run once a year, or but if you're targeting half marathons, or interval training, or other keywords, like, I don't know, um,
I know triathlon, for example. I know those guys are pretty
stuff like
hardcore.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or some sort of supplements, vitamins, whatever runners use. Yeah. So if you target that, you have a way higher chance to actually hit runners. So this is what I recommend when looking for keywords to target with Facebook ads.
Great. That's really great. So you're looking for very specific industry slang, the sort of thing that
Yeah.
runners would say to each other, but people who aren't runners wouldn't. Not that I'm
Yeah.
like a proper runner, so I probably don't know the slang. But yeah, I get
Yeah.
the idea.
Yeah.
And certain
Even
types of people are quite
yeah. Even
obsessive as well, aren't they? Sorry.
correct. Yeah, I was saying you can target even athletes, even personalities, blogs, stuff, things that nobody knows except the people in that industry.
Yeah, I like it. That reminds me of a very Amazon specific thing that Will Chernin was talking about years ago, which is not the same as an advertising choice, but kind of a market choice, which is going after a piece of equipment that nobody in the world knows exists except people who are in a particular sport, hobby, industry, etc., and they're obsessed with it. Like there's a thing that you use in climbing, apparently, which he's
Mhm.
into, and I'm not, and therefore I can't remember what it is. There's some widget that every climber knows what it is, and nobody else does. So that kind of thing, right? Very
Yeah,
specific.
yeah,
Okay, great. So we've got our CAP framework. So copying creators, we talked about
yeah.
audiences. Then testing. We've already deep dived into how the heck do we actually track stuff. So how does this play out
Yeah,
in real
yeah.
life?
So with Facebook, this testing phase is something like you find your audiences, you have your creatives and your copy, and you have to bring those together, because some copy will work with some type of audience, and some copy will have its best match elsewhere. So basically you have to find those winning combinations of interests or audiences and the copy. So when you do have that, then you can scale and can bring new customers.
Nice. And you were saying that Facebook will
Facebook.
optimize this for you based on the conversion data. So you've got to have some
Yeah.
kind of data. So I guess if you're, for example, using your interstitial page,
Hmm.
assuming it's a pure, quote unquote, pure Amazon play, i.e., you don't even sell on your own platform really, but you have one just so you've got a page, then you could optimize for add to cart, as you were saying, right? So that
Yeah.
that that would then mean that what do we do? Create like 10 different ad copies and three different audiences and let Facebook choose? How do you set that up?
Yeah. You can do this manually, or you can have it where you group everything together and Facebook chooses. Like in the past years, Facebook is trying to move people to let Facebook do its thing, but sometimes it's best to not stand in the way. And sometimes it's best to do stand in the way, because Facebook has this reputation of screwing up things, like we never expect the list. And because of this, there's lots of opinions about manually doing things and letting Facebook handle everything. But when it comes to testing, obviously you have to decide what you want to keep running, and what you want to keep. And speaking of reporting and optimization, Facebook has lots of events, and these events, all of them can be fired. Like when you have a page being viewed, when you have a product page, a category page, you can fire events to Facebook, or whenever someone signs up for your whatever you're offering to in exchange for their email, let's say a coupon or something, or downloadable. And you can optimize for all of these events. So basically what Facebook does is, whenever they see an event fired to them, they consider it success. So even if you optimize for page views, or you optimize for purchases, Facebook is going to optimize on success. So whenever that event happened, it's going to find more and more people that are likely to do that action. So
Okay.
when optimizing for this is a big issue because when optimizing for purchases, for example, you have less data, and the algorithm on Facebook is more likely to miss the target, so to speak. And whenever you're optimizing for more frequent events, you're going to get more people that are going to fire those events. But the problem is, and this happens a lot, like the process. People land on your page, then add to cart, then initiate checkout, then finish. Whenever you're optimizing for purchases, you have a higher chance of getting purchases. Whereas if you optimize for landing page views or for add to carts, people have a tendency to stop where you optimize. Like you have a higher chance to get lots of add to carts and big cart abandonment.
Okay, that's a very interesting little nugget. So in other words, whatever you optimize for on Facebook, imperfect as it will be, is
Yeah,
what you're likely to get more of, which sounds
yeah,
kind of obvious, but it's not necessarily. So, for
exactly.
example, Facebook doesn't know whether people are buying on Amazon or not because they haven't got access to that data.
Yeah,
Even so, you should still tell Facebook to optimize for purchases, and you'll get more purchases. Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Perfect. That's a really good nugget. I
Yeah,
like it. That's really good. Yes, so this is obviously quite a complicated business. This
oh
is
yeah,
potentially, I do know from one of the members of the mastermind that we've had for a long time, was doing a lot of work with other businesses, optimizing Facebook ads, driving to emails, and they were absolutely killing it. So I do know that there can be amazing outcomes from this when it's done right. But equally, I've seen a lot of people waste a lot of money and more importantly, drive themselves a bit crazy, go around in circles and get distracted from the stuff they are competent at. So if people want a bit of help with this stuff, what do you guys offer at Audiencer?
yeah. So Audiencer helps the Facebook advertisers find those interests I was talking about to target with their ads. So basically, if you run an e-com store, and especially an e-com store with that covers lots of industries, like more of a general store, or if you're an agency or working with e-com and you have quite a few clients, or you're a freelancer, or you just want to learn more ads and run ads for other people, then you're going to have this situation where you get to access a new industry, a new niche for a client or for your store, and you're going to need fresh targeting. So whenever you go to the ads manager, you're going to type those keywords you want to target in, but those keywords have to be discovered, and that's a long and boring process. So this is why I created this tool to save people a lot of time.
Great. So, in other words, you deal with the audience choosing part,
Yeah,
which does strike me as the hardest. I mean, I guess ad copy is going to come down to doing the stuff you said, which is looking at what words
yep,
people use, what problems people
yep,
have, what your product does. Again, copywriting 101 doesn't mean it's easy, but the audience thing is
exactly.
more of a mystery to anyone who just sells on Amazon. They've had to do all the other stuff we've just mentioned, but they
Yep.
haven't had to think about audiences because Amazon takes care of that, slash it's a
Hmm.
search driven system. So,
Yeah.
and what is I know there's a few different bits of software out there that do that. So what differentiates Audiencer from those?
Yeah. So what I did with Audiencer was to organize all of the interests that can be targeted with Facebook into niches. So basically, Audiencer has a community-driven intelligence algorithm that groups all of the interests based on whatever people search, whatever people find useful. So whenever you go to Audiencer, you only need to type in your niche, and from there you're going to get a lot of options to you can target with your favorite ads.
Nice. So in other words, I guess it's a confusion and reducer and a time saver. Broadly speaking, is that the main
Yeah.
thing? Great,
Yeah,
perfect.
because when you do this kind of research, you have to discover, to know what you don't know, basically. Like if you don't know the personalities, the blogs, the magazines, the whatever, in that niche, you kind of have to discover them, to go read blogs, try keywords, try stuff, and try to see if something is targetable, and that consumes a lot of time.
Yeah, time is always a really pressing concern
Yeah.
for owners slash owner operators of businesses. So that's really
Yeah.
great.
And in the business world, it translates directly into money, because if you spend time on doing something that's keeping you off from doing the important things in your business, then you're losing money.
Yeah, I agree with that. And a lot of the time, using a tool, if it saves a small amount of time, it is a
Hmm.
big payoff, not because of the tool itself or the result of the tool, but because of the time you haven't spent on that you can spend
Hmm.
on stuff that only you can do. So I'm a big fan of using tools intelligently. So if people want to sign up for a free trial of the tool, they're just going to go to amazingfba.com/audiencer. That's audience plus an R for Romeo.
Yep.
And I know that you're in the process just of thanks. I've been begging you to create some free training for us, and very grateful that you're
Yep.
generously going to do that. If you're listening live, it's not available yet, but if you're listening to the podcast, it will be. So if you go to amazingfba.com/FB ads, that's FBADS for sugar, then you'll find that there. What are you going to talk through for us there, Petru?
Yeah, it'll be especially about this process of running ads, of running Facebook ads to to Amazon-based businesses, and helping them
Perfect.
diversify their risk.
Yeah, which is really useful because that's quite a specialist need. It's a big market, but it's quite a niche need as well. So that's
Hmm.
better than the 10 trillion YouTube videos about Facebook ads. But Facebook ads for
Yeah,
audience
yeah,
for
yeah.
Amazon private label sellers, not so much, I think. So that's really helpful. Thank you. Well, the last question I've got for this segment, I know we've got another episode. We're going to talk about using Facebook ads to drive your own direct to consumer site sales, which is a whole different ball game. But is there any other question that I should have asked you about Facebook ads as a way to drive an Amazon launch?
Yeah.
Okay, great. In this case, thank you very much, Petru, for coming on and sharing your wisdom about Facebook ads for Amazon launches.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great. So that's if you're listening live, you're wondering why we're saying goodbye when we're still here. That's because we're going to record our next episode. Petru, are you good to keep rolling?
Yep.
Excellent. Do you need to grab a glass of water or anything?
Yeah.
See, we're merciful to our guests on FBA Towers. I think I've got enough water, so I'm going to keep going. Great. Okay, let's do the next episode. Are you good to roll? Giving you a chance to have a glass of water there. All good to go?
Hmm.
Amazing. Right then, let's get the camera back to me. 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Ladles and jelly spoons, boys and girls, welcome back to the 10K Collective podcast, the place to be for 6, 7, and 8-figure e-commerce sellers. I normally say Amazon sellers, but obviously that's an artificial distinction. Many business owners of businesses that have only sold on Amazon in the past are very busy building out their direct-to-consumer site, not least because Amazon has this cuddly habit of suspending accounts occasionally, which is incredibly scary. And I think most of us who've been out there for a while have either experienced that or at least a listing suspension. So to help us with this journey of using Facebook ads to drive direct-to-consumer sales is Petru Iacob of Audiencer.io. He's the founder of Audiencer, which helps Facebook advertisers, including e-commerce business owners, find cold audiences and increase their sales. So, Petru, welcome back to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So, we've talked in the previous episode about how to use Facebook ads to launch products on Amazon, and you got to kind of jump through hoops and go around the corners and try and work around this kind of barrier that Amazon puts in the
Yep.
way. I guess with a DTC site, it's a lot more straightforward in terms of attribution, right? So,
Yep.
nevertheless, Facebook ads are expensive, and conversion rates on D2C sites are, famously much lower than on a marketplace. Particularly Amazon does an amazing job of getting trust with its consumers, right? So what's the justification for using a potentially very expensive traffic source like Facebook ads?
Yeah, I mean, it's multiple reasons, because for once, you were saying about Amazon suspending accounts and suspending listings, and that's a good way to diversify risk, as in try to find new channels to get new customers. And then you get to scale, so to speak, because with Amazon, you're basically waiting on people to actually want to buy those things you're selling, whereas with Facebook ads, you can get your ads in front of people right when they're browsing and they're wasting time. So it's a different channel. It's a different story. It's basically everything's different with Facebook.
Okay, so let's say I'm a D2C business owner and I've got my direct to consumer site and I've been doing some SEO work and maybe a little bit of Google search ads. Um, I presume that my budget for traffic is going to go shooting up if I use Facebook ads. What's the justification that I have if I go to my business partner and say I want to do this? How do I sell him or her on this concept?
Yeah, well, it's a great opportunity because Facebook has over 2 billion people active on their platform. So basically, you have, especially if you're selling in the West, you have a high chance of actually finding everybody on there, and they also have. Basically, you're also touching on Instagram if you're advertising on Facebook because they also own that.
So I guess certain categories are going to respond better than others, aren't they? Which
Yep.
categories have you found are great for doing Facebook ads? And I guess we also say, are there any categories that it's just probably not going to work very well on Facebook for you?
Obviously, e-commerce is doing great on Facebook because there are like 30-ish million people with stores on Shopify. And obviously, if Shopify has this many users, then the e-commerce industry is doing great. And we know the many of the e-commerce store owners, drive traffic with Facebook ads. So I would say the number one industry is e-commerce.
Okay, sorry, it wasn't a very good question. I mean, which e-commerce categories, which product type categories work on Facebook? Because we're only focused on e-commerce on this podcast anyway.
Okay, so
And like
like
shoes good, and industrial, boring looking things bad, for example, that
uh
sort of thing.
no, from my experience, the best selling products are those products that have a huge market. Like if you're selling something everybody uses, you're going to have big success with Facebook.
Okay, and what if you sell something very niche? Is it less likely to work? Like I'm trying to think, so I have tools for people who build a
Yeah,
specific type of house or something.
yeah. Like if you're selling construction stuff, yeah, people probably aren't going to buy from Facebook, but rather go to, I don't know, directly to stores or Amazon.
What about if you sell something that is very sort of useful but not very sexy? Like I don't know, some kitchen. I'm trying to think of the things you'd have in a kitchen, like rubber gloves or cleaning equipment, like a mop or
definitely
cleaning stuff.
definitely go on Facebook because
Okay.
everybody has kitchen. Everybody has to go like on a daily basis in the kitchen. So if you're selling rubber gloves or whatever kitchen tool, then yeah, your audience is on Facebook.
Okay, great. So it sounds like you got a fairly simple distinction, which is if it's got a huge market, it's likely to work on Facebook. If it's really, really
Yeah,
specialist, then it probably won't. That's very interesting. Okay,
yeah.
cool. So, you got a story of some guys, sort of Indian-based business, I think, that has done very well with a direct-to-consumer site and Facebook ads. So, give us a bit of a taste of how it can work when it goes well.
Yeah, I had a client at some point. We did some pixel stuff for them. They initially launched on Amazon in India, and they got so successful with their product that they got contacted by the Amazon team, and they were invited to the United States, where they eventually got to the second place in their category, which was cosmetics. Sorry. And when I worked with them, they were also using Shopify and spending a lot of money on Facebook ads and still be successful. So for them, it was two channels of acquisition back then.
Great. And so, what do you attribute their success with their Facebook ads on Shopify to? I presume that they got ranked number two in cosmetics in the
Yeah.
USA. Is that right? That's absolutely
Yep.
massive. So they obviously had a very mass market product. How come they made that work then? What were the factors of success?
Yeah. So I think for them, it was the quality of the product and the brand being big. Like if you're, for example, Coca-Cola, and you never went to Facebook ads, but all of a sudden you start running ads, then you have that brand awareness with people. So basically, I think what they did is way harder for small brands. because with that many clients they had from Amazon, it was easy for them to just tap on a new acquisition channel.
Okay. So yeah, it was kind of impressive numbers, but I guess harder for us to
Yeah.
make it work. So let's assume that somebody has a direct-to-consumer site and also has an Amazon site, which for many of my mastermind members kind of selfishly want to serve their needs.
Hmm.
What would you say to a person like that? Let's say a typical breakdown in revenue might be, say, 5% on Shopify, or maybe even 10% or Shopify slash any other direct to consumer. I'm not getting wrapped up in Shopify versus WooCommerce fights. Um, Let me just redo that because the
Yeah,
video
I'm
cut
seeing
out.
a big
It's
black
all right.
dot.
It's gone. So if we have, let me just redo that segment because sorry about this, folks. In fact, I'm going to stop recording and start again. So let's
Okay.
say we've got a typical member of my mastermind, which would be somebody who's got maybe 95% of their revenue is on Amazon. They've got a direct to consumer site. Let's be agnostic about the platform, Shopify, WooCommerce, whatever.
Mhm.
What is the best use of Facebook ads in that kind of mix, would you say, if there is even such a thing as one size fits all answer to that question?
Yeah, so the best use of Facebook ads would be to expand your reach. Like I said in the beginning, with Amazon, you only get to serve people that already have that intent to purchase that product. So basically, Amazon has this huge conversion rate because people come with the credit card to browse Amazon, but this thing doesn't happen on Facebook. So on Facebook, people are browsing, are having fun, are wasting time. So uh, you get to interrupt their lives and to show your products. So the big disadvantage here is you'll have way lower conversion rate, but the advantage is you'll reach out the masses. Like if you have the budget, you can show your ads to lots of people.
Okay, so that brings up the budget question. So how much money do we need to have set aside? And it's a heck of a how long's a piece of string question, right? But it's the number one question
Yeah,
anyone's going to have in the
yeah.
end. So let's take a typical person for the mastermind. Let's say they're doing about $1 million a year in revenue. Let's say nearly all of that was on Amazon. They got a few percent on their direct to consumer site. They're launching a new product. Let's say it's $50, and they've got a bit of a 40% margin in it. So they got maybe 20% margin to play with. What's your advice to this person if they're curious about Facebook ads? Maybe it will work as part of the mix here. What's the next step and what's
Yeah,
the budget?
so they need to set some budget aside, and you cannot really make predictions because I've seen campaigns taking off like after spending $200, $300, and I've had campaigns where I spent like over $3,000, and I didn't make them work. So it's hard to tell. Like you definitely need to try it, but the bigger problem I see here, like if they're making $1 million a year, like you said, it means they have lots of customers, and Facebook gives you this opportunity to upload the past list of your customers to create lookalike audiences, basically to give you a way of finding more people like your current customers. But the problem is Amazon does not let you access that database, so they do not give you the email addresses of your buyers, which would be insanely helpful. Like for a brand, like you said, if they had like 10,000 customers or whatever, and they uploaded that list to Facebook, then they could do a lot of damage, so to speak. Yeah. So the best way to approach this, I would say, it would be to package people, like when delivering, to package people some sort of QR code or something to invite them to your website to leave their email for some coupon for just subscribing to your newsletter, and then you have their email addresses. And once you do that, I mean, this can be built over time, but it can be extremely helpful. So when you have an email list, you can use that list to email them, or you can use it to upload to Facebook and run ads to that list or to people that are like that list. So to a lookalike audience.
So how effective is a lookalike audience compared to a sort of interest-based targeting audience then?
Both are very effective. Lookalike audience, the lookalike audience has the advantage that it uses your data, so it's going to bring you people like yours. But it has the big disadvantage that say you add a new line of products to your store, and you only have data for the other products on your business. So in this case, you'll be needing cold audiences to target, and lookalike audiences don't help you at all.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I guess it depends how much crossover there is. If you're selling
Yep.
golf clothes one week and then the next week you're selling sort of random household widgets, then there's going to be
Yep.
no use to you. I get it. But
Exactly.
if you are, for example, selling, I don't know, household cleaning fluids, and then the next week you start trying to retarget the same people to sell mops, I imagine there'll be a big crossover in audience, right?
Yeah.
Sort of common
Yeah.
sense
Yeah.
tells you. Okay. So, this is almost a chicken and egg moment we've come to then, because you said, okay, if you have an email list, then you upload it to Facebook and you can do lookalike audience, and that can be powerful in the right context. But obviously, if you don't, then the best thing you can do is drive a QR code to get an email list. But I'm like, well, yeah, but if that's just another way of burning my audience off Amazon. So is it an effective thing to do the Ezra Firestone thing, as I understand? I don't want to misquote the poor guy because he's very cleverer than I am. My understanding, he's got what he calls the three pillars of traffic. One is the cold audiences that you then drive to wherever you can pixel them,
Mhm.
say your website. Then you have your retargeting audience, and that's actually the one that then leads you to the sort of list of customer buyer list that you have.
Mhm.
Is that a practical way of doing things, or is that just too expensive and too risky for most sort of small and medium business operators? Say if they're doing 1, 2, 3, $5 million a year mark.
I mean, this is kind of industry standard, like running cold ads to some audiences and then retargeting them, because most people don't just convert on the first touch. You need a couple of touches, like 5, 7, 12. It depends on the industry. So yeah, definitely put some money on retargeting as well, and on building the audience.
Interesting. I guess my instinct as somebody who's more familiar with and comfortable with email marketing than Facebook marketing would argue that getting a cold audience and then capturing their email address and then retargeting through the old fashioned way of sending them emails would be very
Yep.
effective. Would you combine email follow up sequences with retargeting? And if so, how does that sort of pan out?
Definitely. Yeah, I think people in the e-com industry should be investing quite a bit of time in building a list and using email, and also using cold targeting to acquire new customers. But once they got a customer, they can increase the lifetime value of that customer with repeat purchases, and you can do that with an email list. So like if you're using Shopify, you can, for example, get Klaviyo, and with Klaviyo you can have those flows, and you can email people. Like you can have reactivation flows, or win back flows, I think they call it. You can have promos sent a month after they purchase something, or a week after they purchase something. You can have one-off emails on holidays, on Black Friday, on. So email list and building an email list is hugely important for e-com brands, especially in the long run. Like
Yeah.
you can have, let's say you can have a return on you said earlier about a $50 product, $20 margin. So
Yeah.
let's say you're spending $20 to acquire that customer. Basically you're breaking even, because you have some cost of goods. So if you then capture their email and sell again like a month from now, then maybe you double your revenue with with that customer, and then you make a profit. So now, apart from running ads, from just running ads where you just break even and don't make any money, now with using email marketing, you're making a profit.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That reminds me of the information marketing space that I first got training in and first really got learned about back in 2007 onwards, which is the same idea as what they call a self-liquidating offer. So in other words, you had ad cost, so cost of acquiring a customer was zeroed out on the first sale, and then after that, whatever you did was actually what they call the back end. In other words, that's where your profit was. And I
Yep.
suppose what you're saying is the Facebook ads are in that scenario not a profit driver; they're a list building device kind of
Yep.
effectively for free, break even, and then the email marketing is actually the profit driver.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yep. In this
Okay.
combination, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you can be profitable with Facebook ads, but definitely using email marketing will increase the profit.
Interesting. Yeah. And I have to say that I have seen, kind of slightly secondhand, but some quite insider knowledge of some campaigns with some very big budgets. I think they got up to spending about $50,000, $50,000 a day on Facebook ads and
Yep.
making a profit. Within quite a short time. It was actually that the time to profit was measured in days, not weeks or months, which always amazed me. And they were obviously incredibly dialed in on their email marketing, but nevertheless, the side effect of that seemed to be that they grew their Amazon sales from 1 million a month to 2 million a month, which was a obviously huge side effect, but they were focused on their Shopify. Is that a one-off, or have you seen that kind of pattern yourself?
No, it's. I would say this also is industry standard, and it's not only used on e-commerce. I've seen this used a lot, especially in the information industry, like people having a main product like $1,000 course or something like that, and selling self-liquidating offer for like $100 and making no money with that, but then cross-selling with other products and building that email list, and in the long run making a lot of money. So yeah, I would say it's a good strategy, but it kind of needs that budget, because if you're not making a profit immediately and you don't have the budget, then you're going bankrupt.
Okay, so between 0 and 50,000 a day, which is a kind of frightening number and ridiculous for most of us, but that was the fact of the matter. And I'm making it up. And I remember the mastermind
Yeah.
meetings where that was discussed. We all sat there with our jaws on the floor, going, "That's just hard. I can't get my head around that. That's of $600,000 a month ad spend, never mind revenue." So,
Mhm.
but coming back to somebody who's doing, say, $1 million a year, it's quite a typical number for the masterminds I run, because it's basically aimed at 7 or 8 figure sellers, and a few percent D2C, the rest is Amazon. In that situation, how do they begin to figure out what their budget should be? I mean, we've got to come to some kind of number. How do we figure that out?
It's really a complicated answer, because you need to. I mean, they need to know their numbers, because if they're making 7-8 figures, then they kind of know where their profitability is. So starting from there, you need to figure out how much you want to spend, how much you want to lose without getting customers, and if you're getting customers, then you continue doing that. But if you're not getting customers, then there's a problem. But if they're making 7-8 figures a year, I assume they will make big money on Facebook if they haven't done so.
Interesting. Yeah. So you think
Yeah.
it's an untapped opportunity?
Yeah.
It,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
feels
because
like a big leap, though, doesn't it? If you're used to Amazon and you know how the economics of that system works, I guess you spend money now, and because of the purchasing intent and the trust that Amazon has and all the rest of it, you can normally get paid within a few days of spending money on an Amazon ad, right? So,
yeah,
um,
but if you go to Facebook and also run Shopify and sell there, making 7-8 figures a year means that offer is already a good offer. I mean, there's
right.
lots of people buying it, so it's a proven offer.
Okay, so interesting. So in other words, you've got a proven offer and product, and the price, packaging, image mix, whatever is working. Therefore, what you're doing is exposing it to a
Yep.
bigger audience, I guess, is
Yeah.
the thesis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense.
You have a proven offer on Amazon. You have a proven network, which is Facebook. You just have to put them together.
Hmm. You make it sound seductively simple. I like the way of putting it. So obviously this is complex stuff, and getting the right audience, as we've talked about, is a critical part of it. In the previous episode, by the way, if you haven't listened to it, folks, or watched it, do have a listen if you're interested in the structure, what you call the CAT process, right? So the choosing the audience, getting the creatives right, and getting the testing. I've got that the wrong way
Yep.
around, haven't I? But anyway, creatives, audience, and testing. So that's a
Yep.
really good framework. I like that, nice and simple. So
Creatism copy.
yeah, that's the one. Creatives and
Yeah.
copy, audience, and testing. So the audience is
Mhm.
a critical part of that. Probably the most difficult part for somebody who's used to Amazon selling. We're used to creating copy images. We know about that kind of marketing.
Yep. Yep.
And we're not strangers to looking at numbers and crunching numbers, but the audience is a new part because Amazon kind of deals with that for us. So if
Yep.
we're starting with that, what does Audiencer do, and why should we use another tool outside of the Facebook Ads Manager, do you think, for that?
Yeah, so Facebook has this thing that where they attribute you some keywords or they call it interests based on your activity, because they track whatever you're doing on their platform, whatever you're doing on the internet, where they have access via their pixels. And basically, if you engage in a topic like let's say running or dogs or something like that, they attribute you that interest. So when targeting, when having an e-com brand and wanting to target cold audiences, you kind of have to find those keywords, those interests, and target them with your ads. And what this means is you need to know the slang in your industry, and this is a big thing, because if you're an agency or a freelancer and you have new customers, new clients coming in, and you have to deal with their targeting, you don't know that industry, maybe you need to go research. And once you do that, you'll see you're going to lose a lot of time, because you don't know what you don't know, and you have to have this discovering process where you figure out who the personalities are in that industry, what the slang is, what the keywords are, what triggers what. So, and then you need to figure out if that is a keyword that you can target on Facebook. So yeah, this targeting problem is a big waste of time many
Yeah, I
times.
can see that. So it sounds like it would be less of a waste of time for somebody operating an e-commerce business in an established niche. But I guess if they're moving into a slightly new niche or a new
Yep.
product line, even within a broad niche they think they understand,
Yep.
presumably
Yep.
you'd still find a tool like that helpful, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Great. And so why? What is? There are a few. I guess there's a whole suite of products out there for Facebook users, just like there are for Amazon. There's new software born every day. What does Audience to do that's particularly different from the other stuff out there?
Yeah. So what I did with the audiencer is I made it so that it groups those interests of people into niches. So whenever you type something in audiencer, you first tell audiencer what niche you're in, and then what when audiencer knows your niche, it knows what to recommend and what to give you to target. So basically, this is a community-driven intelligence where people contribute to this database. And at this point, Audiencer crunches over 300,000 data points, which is interests, search terms, and all of that. And basically, whenever someone finds something and considers it useful, Audiencer learns from that. So whenever you need to find targeting for a new niche, you just go to Audiencer and tell it your niche, your industry, and it's going to give you a lot of options to target. And from there, what you want to do is to look at less common words, so industry slang, so to speak. So, like for example, if you're into running, like we talked about in the other episode, you want to find stuff that's related maybe to marathons, to I don't know, supplements, to some runners, famous runners that aren't that famous, so everybody knows them. Basically, you want to step away from those keywords that would target irrelevant people.
Yeah,
Like
that makes sense. Yeah.
just targeting running isn't that relevant, but targeting marathons, maybe with that we have a higher chance of finding your audience.
It makes sense, and I guess that they say the riches are in the niches, as they say in the States. But also, I guess more specifically, when you're targeting people, as you said, they don't necessarily have higher buyer intent. Then you have to be very specific on the type of person and their relationship to the sort of products you sell. So if you're selling running shoes that are great for people who run marathons, then there's not much point in selling it to people who want to walk to the shops and back and look cool and fly to
Yeah.
their friends, right? So it's
Yeah.
going to spend a different amount of money, or for different reasons. I know people
Yep.
spend crazy money on sort of fashionable Nike shoes because they're into rappers, which for me is like poison. Whereas I love running, actually running. So for me, I'd have completely different motivators and I would have different heroes and, as you say, different athletes that I would follow and other people wouldn't, and that makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
I guess that the difference between that, and I think it's a mentality difference. Just final sort of question is, for an Amazon seller, often it comes down to finding about 5 different keywords that are fairly sort of short tail keywords that you're really after, like long distance running shoe or something like that. It's not a great example because Nike dominates that space, but whatever it is.
Okay.
Whereas on Amazon, on Facebook, sorry, I'm guessing you have to be a lot more specific because otherwise you've got the danger of a very, very general audience and a poor response. Is that about right? Is that the difference between the
Yeah.
platforms?
Ultimately, you need to test those keywords and see whatever success they bring. But yeah, in theory, yeah, this is what you want to do.
Okay. So obviously a lot goes into this. If people want to check out Audiencer, I know we've got a link here, amazingfba.com/audience. So that's audience with an R at the end, R for Romeo. And then I've persuaded you to do a little video masterclass on the topic of driving traffic to Facebook traffic to Amazon, which is obviously a problem many of the listeners have.
Yep.
At amazingfba.com/FB ads. That's F for Freddy, B for Bertie, ADS for sugar. It's not live yet if you're watching live on the video, but if you're listening to the podcast, it will be available. So that will be, I think, a great way of deepening people's understanding about this stuff because it's certainly not something to plunge into without some expert training and guidance. Interesting stuff. It feels like something that requires some boldness and courage because the money could be considerable that you spend, couldn't it? But on the other hand,
Yep.
as you said, I really like what you said. You've got a proven offer, you've got a proven audience in Facebook. All you got to do is put the two together. I like it. That's a
Yeah.
kind of pitch for the entire business of Facebook ads for e-commerce business owners. Petru, interesting stuff. Is there any question that I should have asked you about Facebook ads for e-commerce direct-to-consumer store owners?
Not that I can think of right now, but for any questions, I'm available at my support@audiencer.io email.
Great. That sounds very good. And audiencer.io, folks, is where you want to check out Petru's website as
Yep.
well. Well, look, thank you so much for answering some. I feel like there's a UK program called Hard Talk where basically they get politicians on and they kind of grill them really tough questions. And I feel like I've almost done that to you. Not trying to be tough, but because it's a little bit of a difficult thing to get your head around. And I think you've really helped us answer some difficult questions there
Yep.
and maybe move somebody closer to getting on that Facebook ads platform where, as you and I've both seen, you more often than me, when it works, it can really blow a business up. So
Yep. Yep.
exciting opportunity. Last thing to say is simply to say, Petru Iacob from Audiencer.io. Many, many thanks for coming on the show with us today.
Thanks for inviting.
Well then, folks, if you're watching live, thanks for I'm amazed you're sticking around to the end of a video of this length. So if you have stuck around, I presume you're pretty serious about the the subject, in which case then you might be advised to get to audiencer.io and check out what Petru and his team are doing there. And as I say, at the moment, the Amazon video, the Facebook ads to Amazon video masterclass is not available yet, but it will be within a few short weeks, I think. So
Yeah.
amazingfba.com/FB ads ADS. Petru, thank you so much for coming on live. Thank you very much to everyone for watching live today with us. And till next time.